Dr. Amanda Chen stared at the patient file in her San Francisco office, her hands trembling slightly as she read the notes for the third time. The case was impossible, yet the evidence sat right there in black and white. Patient Michael Torres, 34, software engineer from Portland, presenting issue claims someone is stealing his memories. What made Amanda's blood run cold wasn't Michael's delusion. She'd treated plenty of patients with memory-related paranoia. It was the specific details he'd provided during their sessions, details that matched perfectly with her own childhood memories, memories she'd never shared with anyone. He knew about the red bicycle, she whispered to herself, thinking back to yesterday's session. He knew about the accident when I was 7. Amanda had grown up in a small town in Ohio, thousands of miles from Michael's life in Oregon. There was no way he could know that she'd crashed her red Schwinn into Mrs. Patterson's fence, or that she'd hidden in the old oak tree afterward, crying, because she thought she'd be in trouble. Yet Michael had described it perfectly, not as his own memory, but as something he'd found in his head that didn't belong to him. The intercom buzzed, startling her from her thoughts. "Dr. Chen, your 2 p.m. is here." Michael Torres entered her office looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes more pronounced than the week before. "It's getting worse," he said without preamble. "Last night I remembered being at a college party in 1987. Problem is, I wasn't born until 1989. And it wasn't just fragments this time. I could smell the cheap beer, feel the sticky floor under my feet. I knew everyone's names, their majors, their relationships." Amanda tried to keep her expression neutral, but her pen stilled on her notepad. She'd been at a college party in 1987, UC Berkeley. She'd been 21, a psychology major who'd stayed too late and walked home alone through campus. "Can you describe the party?" she asked, her professional curiosity warring with a growing dread. Kappa Sigma House. Music was too loud. Def Leppard, I think. There was this girl, Asian, probably pre-med or psychology based on the textbooks in her bag. She was arguing with some guy about leaving early. She had a small scar on her left temple, shaped like a crescent moon. "Michael," she said carefully, "have we ever met before? Outside of these sessions?" "No." His answer was immediate, certain. "But that's not the right question, is it, Dr. Chen? The question is, have I ever been inside your head?" The room seemed to grow colder. Amanda forced herself to continue taking notes, to maintain the professional distance she'd been trained for, but her handwriting was shaky. "Tell me more about these foreign memories. They're not mine, but they feel real. More real than my actual life sometimes." Michael leaned forward. "I remember being a 6-year-old girl hiding in a bathroom stall while my parents fought. I remember the exact pattern on the linoleum, little blue flowers. I remember thinking that if I stayed quiet enough, maybe they wouldn't get divorced." Amanda's pen clattered to the floor. Her parents had divorced when she was 6. She had hidden in that bathroom, staring at those blue flowers, making that exact wish. "I remember medical school," Michael continued, his voice taking on a dreamy quality, the smell of formaldehyde in anatomy lab, being the only woman in a surgery rotation and having to prove myself twice as hard. "I remember choosing psychiatry because I wanted to understand the human mind." "Stop." Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. "I remember your first patient, Dr. Chen, Mrs. Goldman, severe depression following her husband's death. You cried in your car after the session because you didn't think you were helping her. How could you possibly know that?" "Because I was there in your head, watching, learning, feeding." The office lights flickered. Amanda's degrees on the wall seemed to shift and blur, the letters rearranging themselves into words she couldn't read. "You're having a psychotic break," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "This is elaborate confabulation, nothing more, is it?" Michael stood, and Amanda noticed for the first time that he cast no reflection in the window behind him. "Then explain this." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. Amanda as a child with her red bicycle standing next to the oak tree in her backyard in Ohio. A photo that should have been impossible because, well, no one had been there to take it. "I've been collecting them," Michael said conversationally. "Your memories, they taste like copper and fear and ambition. Very nutritious. But I think I've taken too many too fast. You're starting to notice the gaps, aren't you?" "What are you?" she whispered. "Hungry," Michael replied simply. "I used to take memories from the dying. Hospices were perfect hunting grounds. But you have no idea how rich the memories of the living are, so vibrant, so full of emotion." "The beautiful thing about being a therapist," Michael continued, "is that people come to you willingly. They sit in your chair and open their minds, share their deepest secrets. They have no idea they're making themselves vulnerable to something like me. My other patients, oh yes, I've been busy. Mrs. Rodriguez, who came in for anxiety attacks, I took her wedding day. She can't remember why she married her husband anymore. And young Jake with the ADHD, I borrowed his memories of learning to ride a bike. His father's heartbroken that Jake can't remember their special day together." "Please," she gasped. "Stop." "I can't," Michael said, and for a moment he almost looked sorry. "It's what I am, what I do. And you, Dr. Chen, have such exquisite memories, so much knowledge, so much pain, so much growth. I particularly enjoyed your memory of choosing to specialize in treating trauma victims. The irony is delicious." "Who am I?" she asked desperately. "No one," Michael replied gently. "You're no one at all." "Thank you for the session, Doctor," he said, straightening his jacket. "Same time next week?" But Amanda couldn't answer. She couldn't remember what a doctor was, or why she might be in this strange room, or why the man walking toward the door looked so satisfied. By the time her next patient arrived, Amanda was staring blankly at the wall, unable to remember her own name, her profession, or why she was afraid of the red bicycle she could see in a photograph on her desk. A photograph of a little girl she was sure she should recognize. The receptionist found her 3 hours later, completely catatonic. The official diagnosis was early-onset Alzheimer's, though the doctors were baffled by how rapidly her condition had deteriorated. Michael Torres was never seen again, though similar cases began appearing across the country. Therapists, counselors and psychiatrists found in their offices with complete memory loss. The only connection was that they'd all been treating a patient with false memories. A patient whose name and description changed with each case, but whose eyes were always black as hungry night. And in the shadows between sessions, in the spaces between thoughts, something ancient fed on the stolen moments that make us human, growing stronger with each forgotten smile, each erased tear, each memory that once defined a life now lost forever.